The Transformers movies aren't very good. Some would argue that they are good, but I would argue that they aren't. Whether that be because of the overly complicated design choices, the human heroes being screaming idiotic lunatics, or action set pieces that started off sort of okay, but then increasingly turned into jagged bundles of metal rolling over each other. But despite this, every time there's the promise of a new film, there's always an element that intrigues me. The promise of a combiner in Transformers 2. America's sweetheart, Patrick Dempsey in Transformers 3. The Dinobots in Transformers 4. Whatever was good in Transformers 5, I can't remember. Probably nothing. Every time though I end up dragging myself to the cinema, and then I'm sitting there thinking, these are always terrible. Why did I even think for a second that this one wouldn't be? Was the first one even good? Am I going mad? Why do I bother doing anything? I hate these movies, and I hate myself. That being said, the trailer for Bumblebee looks quite good. Now, whatever the part of my brain is where cynicism resides, that part's all, hey, why haven't you learned anything? All these movies are bad and you're a bad person. This slick trailer has tricked you into thinking that it could be something, but it'll be nothing. You're an idiot, which in turn means I'm an idiot because I'm your brain. But to my brain, I would say, there's a couple of very good reasons why this movie could turn out great. Number 1! The director is that of Travis Knight. He comes from the world of animation and has had a hand in movies such as Paranorman and Coraline, plus the other film he directed was Kubo and the Two Strings. He has a unique voice and a flair for visuals. I think he's a great choice. Now, unfortunately though, this film exists in the Transformers cinematic universe. But the good news is, Sam Witwicky hasn't even been born at this point because he was 17-ish in 2007, and this movie is set in 1987. It would be great if this movie turned out to be a time travel film that involved the accidental or intentional murder of his parents, but really that's a fool's dream. But even with this being set in the same universe, these designs are a massive improvement on what we've previously seen. Just looking at him, this is clearly a nod to Generation 1 Bumblebee. And based on the colour scheme alone, this is clearly Starscream, who we'll get back to in a bit. The third thing is, if we're counting things here, I can't remember, the protagonist doesn't seem to be somebody who just constantly goes, ah, ah, ah! And that in itself is wonderful. It's nice to see that even from this trailer, a human and Transformer relationship that's more compelling than anything we've seen in the entirety of this series up to this point. Let's though talk about who's going to be showing up in this film. Now, compared to previous entries, this appears to be a stripped down roster of characters. No doubt this has to do with a much lower budget of about $70 million. And yeah, this is Bumblebee, obviously, though I'm a little unsure of why he's not talking. In the first Transformers movie, it was said that his vocals were damaged in battle and that they were being worked on. Then at the end of that movie, he can talk, but then in the next movie, he can't talk, and he continues not to talk right up until his fight with evil Optimus Prime. You remember that when Optimus Prime went evil for like 40 seconds, and then Optimus Prime says this.
Bumblebee, your voice. I have not heard it since Cybertron fell.
The weird thing is, Transformers 1 to 5 are Michael Bay's films. What, you're not even gonna bother to keep track of your own continuity? If I liked these films, I'd be furious.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Now, I'd always assumed that his vocals were damaged just prior to the events of the first movie, but I guess not. This movie, though, will give us the origin of his talking through the radio thing that he does.
So you talk through the radio?
Actually, you're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're wonderful.
Which is weird that he needs someone else to figure that out for him because, you know, he's a super advanced, highly intelligent robot or whatever. But hey, who am I to say? Who am I to judge? Also, for anybody who's maybe a bit younger and watching this, wondering what the hell this might be, well, this is a cassette tape that you play with a cassette player, like seen here. Pretty standard stuff. You got your eject button, you got your volume, you got your AM, FM and whatnot, you got your moist button. It's all there. A cassette is also a lot like Spotify, except that it doesn't hold every song that's ever been recorded, but like maybe 12. 8 if they're Meatloaf songs, because, you know, those songs are quite long. Also, it should be noted that we're getting 2 forms of robot for Bumblebee. His VW version, and one where he's a kind of truck or jeep. Transformers have the ability to scan and replicate any vehicle, so it's very possible that the truck jeep form is the one he chooses upon arriving on Earth, and then he switches to a bug.
What?
Using Starscream as the villain, that's a great choice. When done right, he's a very compelling character, always chasing power and leadership, plus he's conniving as all hell. Sure, we know he winds up dead. Megatron has his head in The Last Night, but who cares? Look at him now, he's all red and grey with an actual face, as opposed to being tan and bland with a jagged crab head like all the Decepticons. Also, look at the bod on Starscream 2007. I mean, good God. He's got the proportions of a kite. There's a few other Transformers that look like they're going to turn up that aren't in this trailer. This includes Barricade. He's that Decepticon who turns into a cop car and also screams at Shia LaBeouf, which I'm sure none of us can deny is absolutely living the dream. Martin Short is going to be voicing somebody, we don't know whom as of yet, and there's going to be a Decepticon that disguises itself as a 1971 red Plymouth GTX. I don't know anything about cars, but I can tell you this much. This is one. Lastly, Peter Cullen has confirmed that he'll be returning as Optimus Prime. Now, I haven't been a fan of this character in the live-action films. In the cartoons and video games and comics, yeah, thumbs up, mate, good job. But he's horrible in these movies. Remember when Leonard Nimoy was all, "I'm sorry, Optimus Prime. I just wanted us, the Transformers, to survive." And Optimus Prime just point blank shoots him in the back and then head? Great stuff. But the point is I'm willing to let all that slide if they make him look like he does in the 1980s cartoon. I'm wondering though if the stuff with Optimus Prime will happen in a Cybertron flashback, seeing as it's hinted at that he hadn't been to Earth prior to 2007. However, that could easily be changed, considering I didn't think that Bumblebee had been on Earth that long, but then in the last film it was revealed that he's been shooting Nazis. During the Second World War, I should say, not the modern day. I shouldn't have to point that out, except for the fact that Nazis are back for some reason. Why is that a thing? What? But look, I can forgive a lot if we just get Transformers that look like Transformers. But also if this is a better movie with more compelling characters and coherent action sequences, and if it's not in 3D and it doesn't go for 17 and a half hours. Also, I'm sure we're going to be getting more Transformers showing up that have yet to be confirmed, or at the very least, they'll be hinted at. I mean, I'd love to see an Ultra Magnus, or a Metroplex, or a BOT. I mean, not really, but maybe. I'm sure though you've no doubt noticed that Bumblebee is no longer a super cool muscle car that seemingly only a very aggressive and unpleasant human being would drive. This time around though, like I said, he's a VW bug, like it was in the 80s. There's a couple of reasons though why this version was never in the Michael Bay films. For one, in 2007, VW no longer wanted their cars associated with war toys, and so they didn't grant approval to Paramount to use that model of car. Now I'm sure they're all like, any publicity is good publicity, and by that we mean any publicity is better than the 2015 emissions scandal, where it was discovered that we custom built our cars to produce less emissions when being tested, but a lot of emissions when they weren't being tested, resulting in approximately 59 deaths between the years 2018 to 2015 due to Volkswagen's contributions of atmospheric particulate pollution and ozone. Anyways, the other reason why we didn't get him as a bug was that because Michael Bay was all, if he was a bug, he'd remind me too much of Herbie. But that's the point! Michael Bay, he's a killer robot disguised as a yellow Volkswagen. He's in disguise. Michael Bay's version of Bumblebee looks like it wants to kill you in either form. I mean, a rusted out 1980s Volkswagen bug, that would absolutely kill you in a car accident. If you were driving one of these and you were hit, you would just be shredded. You would be a liquid person. But at the same time, no one would ever suspect that one could turn into a robot with a big gun. The voiceover at the beginning of the film, that's actually Bernie Mac. He was the one who sold Bumblebee to Shia LaBeouf in the original film, and that dialogue is right from that moment. It's a nice addition, seeing as he passed away a decade ago this year. Another thing that I don't believe was in the previous designs for Bumblebee is this battle helmet. His anti-stabbed in the face mask. See, if you look in the eyes, it's got like a honeycomb pattern in it. Like a bee. Like a bumblebee. John Cena also shows up in this film. The poor man's Mark Wahlberg.
I look like Mark Wahlberg ate Mark Wahlberg.
But is Mark Wahlberg in danger of becoming the poor man's John Cena? I feel like their weirdly muscular necks are neck and neck. John Cena plays Agent Burns, a member of Sector 7, which is a group we've seen pop up in every Transformers movie, I think. But I might be confusing them with just generic army guys. Though, as was pointed out to me by Shut Up Louie on Twitter, there's a character called Calhoun Burns from Mask, another Hasbro property. And seeing as Hasbro are looking to build a cinematic universe, could the Bumblebee movie be the beginning of that? I mean, Burns is a very common name, but you know, it's possible! Sector 7 though, that's been around since about 1913, when the Allspark Cube was discovered by the government and they were all, hey, are there aliens or whatever? Not whatever though, there were aliens. From then, Sector 7 either worked with or hunted down Transformers, depending on what movie you're watching or how much attention you're paying. This time around, they seem to be after Bumblebee, except I'd hazard a guess that it's all a misunderstanding, and then a mutual respect is developed because he catches a helicopter or whatever, and then they all work together to stop Starscream, who's all about chasing robots through the woods and shooting at them. Now, ideally, this would be a reboot of the Transformers series, and would be getting a whole new set of films with original designs based on the classic designs, and maybe some more returning voice actors from the animated show. But we're getting the next best thing, a soft reboot that mostly ignores the continuity of the previous films. Sure, it's a prequel, and prequels are generally bad, and sure, story elements of the film look suspiciously similar to Transformers the movie, not the Transformers the movie, the 2007 movie Transformers. You know how Bumblebee disguises himself as a car, and then he's purchased by a 17-year-old, and then he goes on the run from the government, and there's also other transforming robots that are bad, and then things get a little bloody hectic. But all films should be given the benefit of the doubt to some degree, I guess. And Paramount did cancel next year's Transformers 6, so that's a big tick in my book. But it could also mean that they cancelled that because due to the dozens of hours of Transformers films leading up to Bumblebee, people are experiencing exhaustion, which might in turn mean that this spin-off movie bombs, and then we never get another Transformers movie ever again. But that's not important right now, because you know what is important? The Earth is Unicron! Remember that from the last film? The Earth is not a planet, it's a giant robot, apparently. I don't remember the specifics of that movie, but it was something to do with Stonehenge, maybe? Is the Earth gonna change into a giant robot man at some point and fling everybody off? Should I be worried about that? Why is the Earth a transformer? Who cares? It's never going to come up again. Anyways, I am genuinely curious as to what people think of this trailer and whether or not I'm crazy in thinking that this could result in a good film. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to leave them below. Also, subscribe and bell icon if you want to check out other videos which pop up every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And also, I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That's out every Monday, and this trailer is definitely coming up in the next episode. All that is linked below and also at planetbroadcasting.com. But thanks for watching this. I appreciate it. Take care.